Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, Cam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan, Cam, slam, jam.
Subscribe to us on Podbean, the Apple Podcast Store, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at TheFinalScore35 and TikTok at AGSpartanFan35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into TFS Pod 149, almost to 150. That's pretty wild. It's Feast Week, folks. Thanksgiving this week. Before I forget, wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. A lot to be thankful for. Enjoy the time with your family and friends this week, and just a phenomenal week of sports. Feast week, it really is, food-wise and sports-wise. College basketball at the wazoo, college football, rivalry week, NFL, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. Pretty awesome weekend. Love to see it. A lot to talk about this week. What did we do last Tuesday or Monday? I can't remember what day we did it, but a lot's happened since then, so let's get to it. Brandon Staley, that man can kick rocks. Chargers coach, I think it's his third year. He's had some bad moments in his first 2 years with blowing leads, bad coaching decisions, whatever. Last year they had like the biggest blown lead in playoff history to the Jaguars, lost. And he kind of blamed the team for it, whatever. Then this year it's been a lot of the same. A lot of blaming people, a lot of finger pointing and not taking responsibility for it. And they lost again yesterday, blew a game to the Packers. They should have won. They're getting themselves out of playoff contention. They're already in a tough division. They've lost a lot of close games. And he's yelling at reporters, saying that they're dumb, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, dude, you are what is wrong with sports. You don't, as a leader, you're supposed to take responsibility for your actions, for your team underperforming. This guy just points fingers like a loser. He acts like a child. And I saw someone saying he should go back to his whatever D3 he played college at, because that's where he belongs. Not in the NFL coaching professionals. You're not a professional, dude. You suck. He's going to get fired, I hope, and hope he never gets another job, because people like that should not be mentoring anybody.
Right. I learned when you were in fourth grade, when you win, it's the players. When you lose, it's the coach. So you own it, and you figure it out, and you keep your mouth shut, and you work, and you figure it out. And you don't do the same stupid stuff over and over and over and over and over and over again. All right, my podium, a little different because I abhor the NBA, but I got to talk a little bit about the NBA and how dumb it is. As in, have you seen the dumbass in-season tournament they have going? A, I don't even understand it. B, they're playing on what is akin to an and one style court with all this painted graffiti garbage, whatever. Like, courts don't look like that. Basketball doesn't need pro basketball shouldn't need an in-season tournament. You shouldn't have to warn people that you're going to rest your stars when people are paying up the wazoo to go watch these games in person for ungodly reason. And this is what made me think about this. So, as I sit there, if there's nothing worth watching on TV or if I'm kind of zoning in and out of a game, I go to TikTok. And I love sports TikToks. And in fact, I see lots of great Larry Bird TikToks, which I just love, because at the time I couldn't stand Larry Bird. But then I saw a really good one yesterday, and it was the 1985 NBA All-Star starting lineup. And I can't remember all of them, but let's just say it was Jordan's rookie year. It was Magic. It was Bird. It was like Kareem's 14th All-Star game. It was Ralph Sampson, who was just coming on at that point in the game. It was Moses Malone. It was Dr. J. It was Adrian Dantley. It was George Gervin. And it immediately got me to thinking, there are not 10 players better than the 10 guys that were starting that game that I would take in this day and age NBA. Not even close. The NBA today is a pansy game. Look, people want to be all up in arms and all woke and cancel, Draymond Green because he choked out somebody who had his hands on his teammate's neck. Look, is he an idiot? Does he do dumb things? Does he have a temper? Yep. You know what? But he would have been a stud for the Pistons in the 80s. That's back when basketball was basketball. And you young people, spare me they with no physical ability to move, blah, 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 blah. That was basketball back then. You had to be a man to play basketball then. Now you don't. You can be LeBron and you can bitch about it and you can, play your 60 games and say, oh, I'm too tired. I need to take off every 3 games. It's just too much for me. Then retire. Like, you're a waste of space, all NBA players. The game, the way that they have to market it. Are you kidding me? You have to market a league that's that established and that old in that way? For what? What are you trying to compete with the WNBA? Like Bird and Magic, all these guys yesterday, for the most part, are all still alive. They got to be just like rolling their eyes and just like, what the, what, whenever they see the NBA today. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And they need to take it off our regular TV and put it on pay TV and let it die on the vine. Newsflash for you, there is not a next Magic and Bird coming up that's going to save basketball. Period.
I agree. It's not looking good.
All right, tee up. So, we're always looking for different stuff. I found 2, and we're going to go to the world of golf as I think, regular season for 2023 ended this week. First, we're going to tee up. If you remember, it was almost 2 years ago now, right? Oakland Hills tragic fire.
It was 2022, yeah.
Ryan and I have been there. We ate in the clubhouse. We played around there. An amazing clubhouse. Burned to the ground. So, a couple things to flag there. Okay, so $48 million insurance settlement to rebuild it. Now, arguably, you can't rebuild it with all the history and whatever, but still, $48 million should be enough to build a new clubhouse. Oh, no. Not only was it about 85,000 or 85 million to begin with, so well over what insurance gave you, so you were already going to assess your members. The final price comes in at about $105 million. Guess who pays for that? Members of the country club. I can attest, now, albeit at Blythefield and not Oakland Hills, assessments suck. Especially now at Oakland Hills, you don't have a whole lot of upper middle class people. They're all rich as hell and they supposedly have the money to throw away. But that assessment is equivalent to $60,000 per member. $60,000 per member. That's more than a lot of people in America make. Like, you couldn't rebuild a clubhouse and make it good for $48 million, or maybe assess them a couple of grand each and make it $60 million. Like, you got to be kidding me. So, first tee up there. Second tee up, so we can just toss golf out this weekend, is how about Tiger's ex, who, sexual harassment, I think even some sexual assault and sexual abuse claims and whatever else when Tiger ditched her and locked her out of the house. Turns out she was making it all up. So my age-old question there is, when an athlete, especially a male, gets accused of something that didn't exist, where's the punishment for the accuser? There won't be any for her. Yeah, she's not going to amount to anything, and people will know she's not going to amount to anything. She's an ugly skank anyway, but whatever. It still is ridiculous that you're going to let somebody like that get away with making those disparaging claims about somebody like Tiger Woods, or call it anybody, any athlete. I don't care if it's Peyton Manning, if it's Kirk Cousins, if Tiger Woods, or Kirk Cousins wouldn't, Peyton Manning wouldn't put themselves in a potential situation. Regardless, there is no place for that and to have it go unpunished. So, double tee up this week in the game of golf. Oakland Hills for overtaxing their already rich but still screwing their member base, and Tiger's ex for being a POS. All right, moving on to pregame MSU coaching search real quick. So lots of stuff kind of came out last week. It's hard to tell if it's true or not. What's real,
what's not.
There was all the urban talk or whatever, but the rumor was last week, and I saw it in some national publications, so not just like Michigan State things, whether they just picked it up, whatever, who knows. But that there were second interviews with Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, who's been on my list as a go. Elko from Duke, who's been on my list all along as a go. Latecomer, who Ryan talked about here a week or two ago on the pod, Jed Fish from Arizona, who's having a great season. And then number 4, the no way candidate. Sorry, I'm sure you're decent, but Candle from Toledo. They're 10-1 or whatever, but I don't want your MAC coach. So word is they're all having the second interview. But yet word today is that Harlan says he hasn't even been interviewed yet, and they said that they're going to interview him. And word today is that they're going to announce it by next Wednesday. I don't know. Guys, like, I get Michigan State's holding things close to the vest, but here's my thing. I don't trust them to do it the right way or to get it right.
No,
they just don't. They don't have
right.
a good track record. They screwed it up with Fickle, albeit Wisconsin's not that great either. But Fickle would have been a much better person than Tucker. They screwed it up there. They've had lots of meddling in the past. I just want it to get done and solved for because Michigan State lost another recruit today, a running back I saw. So that's 6. And the early signing period's coming up in December. You need to get a coaching staff in there to maybe rescue some of these guys who are just who decommitted to get recruited while they're waiting to see who the next coach is going to be. So that's the latest on the coaching search. Hopefully this time next week we'll have a pretty good rumor and a pretty solid idea who it's going to be. Certainly the week after that. What did you hear today, Ryan? Who was it?
Justin
Thin says he thinks it's Jonathan Smith. I would have no problem with that. Comparoni, I think, right, thinks it's 40-40, Smith Elko, and 20% the field. I think that's probably a little bit more accurate. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Only time will tell. All right, let's get to spot 1 here around the world. Back to that since it's hoop season. Week 12 review. Without further ado, let's do this thing. Let's pull up the games that we looked at last week. Start in the Big Ten. Might as well start with the Wolverines. Yeah, folks, we said they were going to murder Maryland. 21.5 point favorite. If Maryland had a heartbeat, they'd probably win that game by 2 touchdowns. Michigan has not played well the last couple weeks. Their defense bails them out in spots, and the officials bailed them out in this game.
Right?
A fumble recovery. They had key turnovers that swayed the game. Again, McCarthy, he's not that good, folks. When he doesn't know what play the defense is going to run, he's not that good. He's average. And Michigan's rather running the ball a ton, yeah, absolutely, but they only had like 290 yards of offense against a poor Maryland defense. Mm-hmm. One that Michigan State moved the ball all over.
One that Penn State, who fired their offensive coordinator and still struggled to score records, scored 55 points against.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
if it is not blatantly obvious to anybody who wants to protect Michigan and says, oh, they weren't cheating, it didn't matter, look at that game. And you can argue, oh, it was between big games, they weren't up for it, blah, 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 blah. Great teams get up for every game. Mm-hmm. A great team would have prepared for Ohio State by waxing Maryland as they should. And Michigan rightly could have lost that game, maybe should have lost that game. And I'm telling you, when you don't know every move the opponent's going to make, it's a lot easier for you.
Yeah, might as well keep it on the Michigan topic. More stuff came out with the this Connor Stallions scandal.
Yeah, Uncle T, isn't he?
Uncle T.
Board of Trustees?
Yeah, they think it's a Board of Trustees member. Tim Smith, he says he denied it, but there's no other guy with a T in his name that donates to Michigan more than him.
Yeah, he runs like some booster program, too. He's like the head of the NIL stuff for them.
He's got his name all over it. Then Partridge gets fired as the linebackers coach. The rumor has it that Jay Harbaugh might be next to get fired. Yeah, if he knows about it, then no, Jim probably doesn't either, right? Haha, wink, wink. Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, but if you're anybody that buys that Michigan didn't know and is not guilty, you have your head so far up your ass, you can't be saved. You're going to smother yourself to death because there is so much. Not even just smoke. There are so many flames here. It's only a matter of time. I mean, you're talking about the guy that got fired was destroying evidence on computers. That's computer fraud. Oh, coach number 2 for computer fraud in the last 2 seasons.
In the last
you're talking about
11 months.
Allegedly with the booster feeding information to people for betting with Vegas. You think Vegas is going to take too kindly of it? If that's true, there's going to be a lot of people wearing cement shoes in the bottom of Lake Mead is what's going to happen there. Like, the only bad part for everybody else in football that has to deal with this, because everybody else thinks, except for Michigan fans, think they're guilty, and some media who like to pander to Michigan. The only bad thing is by the time the NCAA gets done with their investigation and Michigan has 90 days to respond, it's going to be well past the season. And so the just punishment is going to be to, quote, vacate, however many, 30, 40 of those, 1,000 wins. And, oh, by the way, the 1,000 wins you celebrated, including wins over Ann Arbor High School.
YMCAs.
Like Chris said it perfectly. Nobody's records, period, I don't care who you are, should count before 1950. They just shouldn't. I mean, the Big Ten wasn't even a reasonable facsimile to what the Big Ten is now until the early 50s when Michigan State joined in like 52. So, I know Michigan, that would wipe out like 10 of your 11 supposed, national titles because they were all from 1902 when you were beating people because they didn't really have football
Albion
programs.
College.
Come on. I mean, and we're going to celebrate that garbage. Cheaters and best. That's all I got to say. And I get it. There's a big game this weekend, and we'll talk about that in the next spot. But it will do everybody a big favor if you go and lay an egg in that game to prove that you can't win without cheating and to just get everybody.
If they lose, they're going to get suspended from a bowl game because that's just what they're waiting.
Well,
for.
They'll probably do it themselves. Because they'll just say, "Oh yeah, well, we're guilty." So they're going to try to head it off as much as they can. That's why Harbaugh made the deal with the Big Ten. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we agree. We won't take you to court if you just drop it, because they knew that there's more stuff on them. Like as soon as that happened, the next day the NCAA turned over more evidence against them. The booster thing, the fired coach, all this stuff. It's like, please. And next time you suspend a guy, Big Ten, suspend him. Period. Don't let him coach during the week when it really matters the most. All he does, as we've said on the podcast, is pick his nose and bend over with his hands on his knees, looking like he's the old ball coach all the time. It doesn't matter during the game. He's a figurehead during the game. His headset, as Ryan says about Harlan Barnett, may as well be Fisher-Price and not plugged in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. That's when it matters. But, we'll discuss that game here in the next spot. But, that was interesting game for Michigan. Rutgers Penn State was also in the noon window. Penn State kind of picked it up again. Alar got hurt. He's probable next week.
Fired their offensive coordinator, and they still didn't really do much better. That's for sure.
They're not very good. James Franklin's a fraud. Northwestern bowling, good for them. Braun
hired their coach, awesome.
Head coach for.
They won one game last year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for Northwestern.
Penn State had 322 yards.
We'll do Michigan State last. Iowa, Illinois, good Lord. Iowa wins the West. They stumbled into it.
Hit the under again. 28 total points.
It's just bad football. Their offense is so bad. There's more and more rumors growing that Ferentz is done after this season. Wouldn't surprise me. Crazy. Ohio State, another good performance. Defensively, very similar to the Michigan State game. Kind of whooped their butt against Minnesota there. Henderson played really well. Defense is pretty stout. Looked good. Nebraska, Wisconsin comeback wins in overtime.
Nebraska was up 14-0 in that game, and you're like, oh, another Wisconsin choke job at home, and then
Nebraska going to Nebraska.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they've lost 3 in a row after they got to 5-3, and they don't have an easy one this week against Iowa.
No, that game's going to be 3-0.
To give them a chance to go to a bowl
2-0.
game. So,
first to shuck a piece of corn wins. I don't know. That's the last college game that we bet on for our thing. Michigan State, Indiana. Wow, Michigan State. I got to give it to them. We've counted them out as it's been a terrible season. Really a season from hell. The last 2 seasons have been just not good. After the 2021 campaign, we all were
really kind of
so happy.
Indiana lost last year.
Yeah, last year was just bad in general, and this year's been even worse, even more the same thing. And I got to give it up. This is not the coaches that won this game. This was the players. Down to 45 scholarship players, and I don't care if it's at Indiana. I don't care if it's at Penn State or Michigan. If it's at 45 scholarship players, that's almost half of their roster. When you can
travel 74 to a road game.
45 scholarship players, and Michigan State goes on the road and wins against an Indiana team that have been playing pretty solid football.
Have been scoring a lot of points.
Kept them to 21. Kate
and
Hauser,
came back, down.
Yeah.
Michigan State was
Showed
a lot
some
like the
gumption.
Rutgers game where you kind of felt like, yeah, we're going to get this, and then they gave it the late touchdown. You're like, that's it. And Hauser on that game-winning touchdown spins away from the pressure very nicely, leads his
pretty well.
receiver, Carr, very nicely. Thank goodness it was a tight end, because if it was a receiver, they would have been obliterated on that hit, and the guy just bounced off of him like nothing. He looked like Superman going in the end zone. Had the best, I saw today, best receiving game for a Michigan State tight end since Sims in 2012.
Yeah, well, Carr, that's
7 for 119 and 2
kinda
tutties,
what-
and actually had 3 touchdowns. But Michigan State, shocker, tell me if you've heard this before. Got called for a dumb illegal procedure, which is their third one of the first half for the guy moving forward when the ball was being snapped. Otherwise, that would have been another touchdown for Carr. And Hauser, he had a nice game. He made some nice throws.
Stupid turnovers, but I mean, he played all right. I mean,
Played okay.
freshman of the week, Carr. That was the Carr that we've been promised for
Yeah.
2 years. He finally played. He finally looked healthy, confident. I mean, he caught a lot of. I mean, even he had that one-handed catch that they ruled out of bounds that he snared. He played really well.
Does this mean that Hauser's the future? Now, I still don't necessarily think so. I still personally think Levitt shows me a little bit more upside, but it's encouraging. I think the line when they stop playing Spencer Brown actually is pretty decent, and has some room to continue to grow.
Very injured.
The question that I have coming out of this game yet again is, what in the hell is the Michigan State strength and conditioning coach doing? Their approach, and this is the Tucker approach, so hopefully this will go away with him, where they don't tackle and they don't wear pads that often. How has that helped Michigan State the last 2 years? We are arguably by far and away the most injured team in college
He
football.
said they did it to keep injuries away.
And here's why. Because I get it, you get dinged up when you tackle and you hit in practice and you take a risk. But you go to the game and you haven't been hitting people, you get hurt because you're not used to it. Duh. Novel concept. I mean, our strength and conditioning coach,
terrible.
how we can get pushed back, straight back on almost every running play, especially on like phone booth type running plays. Pass protection, fine. But you need to get a 1 yard gain up the middle. Ain't happening. Maybe with Mangum because he's a big boy, but that's a strength and conditioning thing. The injuries that we have, that's strength and conditioning. That's a coaching approach. That's my big beef ongoing that I hope the next coach solves for, because Michigan State didn't have those problems under Ken Manning. Did guys get hurt? Yes, of course, because it's football.
Happens.
But the amount of guys that Michigan State has hurt is the same thing last year. It was the same thing, not as much in 2021, but I mean, it's the same thing
There were some key
year over year. I remember playing Illinois last year about this time when we got that win, and we were down we pretty much had to play all the defensive ends because our D tackles
Well, I mean,
were all hurt.
that happened. Yeah, there was a guy that is a walk-on offensive tackle that's playing defensive tackle because we don't have enough guys.
Right. It's
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But hey, hats out to Harlan.
Win's a win.
You know what? He got the win. I'm sorry, Harlan. Nobody may love Michigan State as much as you. I get it. I think you're a good man. I think you're a great Spartan. You are not head coaching material. You're not even defensive coordinator material. But thank you for a couple of wins over crappy teams. We'll take it because it's better to be
Confidence builders.
probably 4-8, 2-6, 2-7 in the Big Ten than what we were looking at, which was our first 0 season in the Big Ten in history. So.
Yeah, we were talking about that a month ago, and
We'll take it. And it begs the question.
In November, huh?
Does Tom Allen get to keep his job?
Yeah, $24 million buyout.
Yeah, that's such a
They're
huge
not gonna
buyout
pay
for
that.
him.
They're
Smart
not gonna pay
negotiation on his part.
They're not going to pay that. It's Indiana. They're not going to pay that. I guess we can look around college football. Georgia is rounded into form in the last month. They look almost unbeatable right now. Yeah. Offensively, got Brock Bowers back. Defensively, they're fast. They're physical. They're
38-10 smoke Tennessee.
I mean, that is a real deal football team down there in Athens, Georgia. Sticking with SEC, I guess Alabama. Yeah, they play a bad team, but their offense has picked it up and they look really good. Shocking, a Nick Saban coach team. We count them out; they look good. I'm looking at this right now. It's hilarious. Remember when we both said that at the beginning of the season, after Colorado started off 2-0, they're frauds. Oh, they're frauds. 4-7, about to be 4-8. 1-7 in Pac-12 play. 56-14 loss to Washington State, who hadn't won since week 4.
Yeah, horrible.
Bad.
Louisville, nice win over Miami.
Going to the
top
ACC
25.
championship.
Yeah, for the first time. Mississippi, I mean, it's that off week, traditional off week in the SEC. Although, ask Auburn about that. They paid New Mexico State $1.85 million and got their butts smoked.
Coach.
Tulane, 24, got the win. Oklahoma flirted with disaster with BYU, but pulled out the win. Arizona's been rolling. Don't look now, but they smoked Utah. North Carolina was a dog, and there's a reason, and they lost by 11 to Clemson.
They're not very good.
Notre Dame rolled Wake Forest. Oregon crushed Arizona State.
Tell you what,
Knicks had 6 touchdowns in the first half.
Oregon's my dark horse. If they win next against Oregon State on Friday and then they beat Washington, I think they have a legitimate chance to win a national championship.
Yeah,
that is
I think so
good
too. And I think,
team.
for that matter, Washington has a legitimate chance. I watched them play a really good Oregon State team. Who, by the way, Jonathan Smith, yes please, and take half your roster with you. Kansas State was a really good game, a little last week rivalry game.
Yep.
K-State got them. Kansas was on their third string quarterback, a true freshman. Missouri held on and beat Florida. Actually made a big play there. They're having a great season. We talked about Washington, Oregon State, actually a really good game in a heavy rainfall. Texas gets a win. They get Ewers back. LSU rolls. What did
8 touchdowns, 500
If
plus
he's not a
yards.
Heisman finalist,
He
then
didn't freaking win the Heisman.
then don't even televise that anymore because that's just ridiculous.
And what was the last thing to say? Okay, Florida State. I'm sorry, their season's over. They won't get in the playoff. Doesn't matter if they go undefeated. Sorry.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Can't.
I mean, with their
quarterback is a stud 6th-year guy who's playing really well, breaks his leg.
I guess it depends on how they play against Florida this week and in the ACC championship. Don't rule them out completely, but that.
They have a lot of good players, but
there's a very good argument that tomorrow night Washington could slide ahead of them, given that.
I think they
just
will.
Because that's reality, right? Like we saw that in the tournament back in 2000. Michigan State got a 1 seed over Cincinnati
because
Kenyon Martin broke his leg in the whatever conference they were in at the time. I can't even remember what conference it was. Might have been the Big East, actually. But broke his leg in the conference tournament and was out for the tournament. And they got a different seeding as a result. So would not necessarily surprise me.
Yeah, that's week 11, or week 12, I'm sorry.
All right, moving on to spot 2. Spot 2 in Big Ten Power Rankings are presented by Norris Sports Group. NSG is a boutique agency of experts with 30-plus years of experience in sports sponsorship and much more. Learn more about them today at norrissportsgroup.com. With that, my Big Ten Power Rankings, and for a long time, as you know, I had like 9 teams tied for 10th or whatever. I spread it out a little bit more. It's starting to kind of play out a little bit. So, new updated AG Power Rankings, 14 Indiana, rightly so. They lost the toilet bowl. But Michigan State's moving up a little bit. Nebraska 13, they're on the schneid. They're 5-6, probably going to go 5-7, and miss a bowl game again. 12 Purdue, they're equally not very good. In fact, Indiana Purdue is the new toilet bowl for the old Oaken Bucket this week. I have Michigan State up to number 11, not because they're significantly better, but because they beat Nebraska and Indiana, and I think they're better than Purdue. Tied for 10, Minnesota, Illinois, Rutgers, Maryland. They're all 6, Wisconsin, only because they're okay. 5, Northwestern, who smoked Wisconsin, and everybody on this list except for Iowa, who they could have beaten. 4, Iowa, 3, Penn State, 2, Michigan, 1, Ohio State, setting up the big game this week.
Yep. All right, let's do some picks this week. Week 13, the final week of the regular season. Let's start with a little Black Friday matchup, Iowa-Nebraska. Nebraska finally got Iowa
Nebraska's
last year.
favored by 2. Over under 26.5.
Oh my gosh, that's low. That's the lowest. Iowa's beat their record 4 times this season. I'm going Iowa. Nebraska getting Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, it's at Nebraska. Nebraska got them last year. Iowa's already in the Big Ten championship game, but I don't know. You know, it's a rival. Iowa would love to keep Nebraska out of a bowl game again. Yeah, I'd be hard-pressed to see Iowa not win that. The question is do they go under 26.5?
Oh, yeah.
13-10.
Like 6-3.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I'm going to go Iowa, too.
We stay on Black Friday, NBC, 7:30, Ford Field.
The line's
The
climbing.
MHSAA Division 4. Oh, wait. Michigan State, Penn State for the biggest trophy in college football, the Land Grant Trophy.
Penn State now a 21-point favorite.
I had it at 19. I think Michigan State covers this. I don't think Michigan State wins, but I think this reeks of 24-6.
Michigan State's defense is decent. I mean, they're pretty dinged up, but Penn State also has a good defense. I don't think Michigan State's going to score very much, to be honest. But I don't think Penn State's very good on offense.
They run the ball well, though.
So
Michigan State
I think Michigan State covers 21 for sure, but I don't think they win the game by any chance.
I don't either. It'd be hilarious if they did, though, just to spite James Franklin.
Oh, it would be awesome.
Old Oaken Bucket, Indiana, Purdue. I'm going Hoosies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Hudson Card's going to be back or not. He got hurt, and I mean, they battled against Northwestern. Man, Indiana's got, like, they always have a couple of good weapons on offense and stuff, and they just can't put it together. Their defense is horrible, but Purdue's offense has not been very good. It's at Purdue, I think.
I have no idea where it is.
It's at Purdue. We're going straight up.
Yep, close spread.
I'm going to go Purdue.
Boiler up. All right. We'll do Michigan.
Even with a probable backup quarterback.
We'll do Michigan, Ohio State last. Northwestern, Illinois. The Battle of Lincoln. Northwestern, 7-5.
Yeah, what is Illinois? If Illinois wins this, they get into a bowl game?
I don't know what the record is.
Let's see. I can look at it real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so Illinois has a bowl game on the line. By the way, one of their wins is against Toledo. Toledo's only loss is to Illinois. Yeah. And they barely beat them.
Hire this man.
So, man, it's hard because it's at home. Northwestern's already in a bowl. Illinois needs it to go to a bowl. Illinois arguably probably should have beat Iowa. They'd won a couple games in a row before that. And in fact, 3 out of their last 4 before that. I think Northwestern's a pretty decent team this year, but I think Illinois gets the win here.
Okay. Battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. And I think, did Wisconsin become bowl eligible with that win? They did, didn't
yes.
they?
Wisconsin is
Minnesota.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, Wisconsin's 1.
Minnesota
6.
needs to win this to get into a bowl.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, another game where it matters.
Wisconsin. Minnesota's terrible.
It's at Minnesota.
No,
man, do I go for 2 straight teams that need it? It seems like Wisconsin found a little something. Allen's back a little bit and playing. It took overtime. They got the lead back, then they blew the lead. Wisconsin's offense is still not very good. Mordecai's playing again, but he's still hurt. Rivalry game, you never know which way it's going to go. Who did Minnesota play last week? Minnesota, well, they got throttled by Ohio State, and they lost to Purdue, and they lost to Illinois. And they barely beat Michigan State. They beat Iowa. I don't know. I'm just going to buck the trend just because I've got like a 2 or 3 game lead in their picks, and I'm going to put my neck out on the line. I'm going to go with Minnesota and upset because I think it would only be fitting to have the Big Ten just chock full of 6-6 teams.
Yeah, it does.
That's how mediocre the Big Ten is.
Well, speaking of 6-win teams, Maryland and Rutgers both have 6 wins, and they're playing each other this weekend. Terps.
Yeah, Terps. I mean, Rutgers has scored 6 points in the last 2 games, albeit against good defenses, Iowa and Penn State. But they've been outscored 49-6 the last 2 weeks.
How about a civil war on Friday night? Oregon State, little top 15 matchup. 13.5 is the spread for Oregon.
Where is it? Oregon State's crowd gets after it. They were impressive in the pouring down rain. They got these fake chainsaws that make a lot of noise.
Crazy. It's at Outson.
Oregon's just rolling right now. I think
they cover.
Oregon is a missed field goal from potentially beating Washington and being undefeated. So I think they win. We're going on spread.
Yeah, 13.5 is the spread.
Man, that's tough. You think they're covering it?
Yeah, I think they pound them.
They've been throttling everybody. So we'll say this: they're going to cover because the word's going to leak that Jonathan Smith's coming to Michigan State.
Okay, I like it. 2 NFL games, then we'll do Michigan, Ohio State. Lions, Packers, Thanksgiving, the tradition. Lions.
Second longest rivalry in pro football.
Lions.
Yep, Lions.
Texans, Jaguars. That's a fun little game. Teams playing well. I think the Texans get it done. They're rolling right now. Getting healthy, too.
They are. The Jags bounce back after getting smoked by the 49ers. I think the Jags are going to win that game.
The Jaguars. All right. The game. Number 2 versus number 3 on Saturday at noon. Gus Johnson's going to need a new pair of underwear. So's Joe Klatt.
I'm going to have to watch that on mute. I used to love Gus Johnson. I just can't
He's terrible.
I can't take
Joel
his
Klatt are both
over-the-top hyperbole anymore. It's like, it's nauseating.
Yeah, it's gotten really bad in the last couple of years. But Michigan's a 3.5, 4-point favorite, whatever you're looking at, whatever sports book you're looking at, which was, I think it was 7 a couple weeks ago, so it's down. Ohio State's playing well defensively. Michigan, we know, is a good defense. Ohio State's offense is not great. They don't score a ton comparatively to what they have, but they take care of the rock. They can pound you on the ground a little bit. Michigan's offense has kind of sputtered in the last couple of weeks, not playing as well. I think it's a battle of attrition, really. Whoever can force a turnover or two, whoever controls time possession, gets more rush yards. I think Ohio State this year is more built to beat Michigan than they have in the
They're
last
trestle
2 years.
built.
Yes, the last 2 years, I think Ohio State is more built to beat an SEC team than a Michigan team. They're more, track speed, and this year they're very physical. They play a more physical brand of football. And I think Ohio State gets this done. I think it's going to be a low-scoring 21-17 type game. That Ohio State's going to get one defensive stop at the end and win. I've said they're going to win the last 2 years. I really do think they get them this year. And Michigan's dream season comes to crashing halt, and Harbaugh gets the ban for next year. That's also a rumor that he's going to be possibly suspended all of 2024. Could totally see that. I think this is where it ends.
Yeah,
Wolvies.
Brian, I think that's a great assessment. I think that Ohio State was built more the last several years, honestly, to beat SEC teams, get to the playoffs, and win national championships. Whereas, conversely, I think Michigan was built still like how they'd been physical. Last year was a little different. They kind of let it fly a little bit more. Hey, look, I'm sorry. You can at me, you can argue with me all you want that everybody does it, and even Harlan Barnett made a joke about how Indiana steals signs the right way when asked why Hauser came to the sideline for all the things, because they get him in game. I'm telling you that even when you do that, you don't know every single move of the opponent, and Michigan is looking more and more like they knew every single move on both sides of the ball of the opponent for the better part of 2 seasons now. I think that not having that means that they're going to have to rely on their own ability.
They're a little dinged up,
I
too.
think, they've got some injuries on their offensive line, which is generally very good. I think Ohio State's offensive line has been better. I think Ohio State is more balanced now that Henderson's back and healthy. I think McCord is not Stroud. He's not Fields, but he's a solid quarterback. He's like a JJ. He's like a Cade McNamara.
Yep.
He doesn't make that many mistakes. I think Henderson is the difference. I think he's a better back than Corum. I think Ohio State's defense is better than Michigan's. I think Ohio State doesn't necessarily get as many big plays, but they don't give up big plays. And I think Ohio State wins that game probably in the same vein, like a 24-20, 24-23 type of thing. It's going to come down to the end. It's going to be a really good game, but I think Ohio State wins. Then I think the floodgates really open on Michigan, because it makes things a lot easier for everybody when they can just go, oh, we're not going to ruin their national championship season only to turn around and take it away from them. So,
and I think Ohio State's pissed about the sign stealing. They want blood.
Yeah.
Same can be said about Michigan, but because they hate Ohio State, obviously. But I think this is Ohio State's year to get them finally after the Michigan hasn't lost to them since 2019 yet, because you ducked them.
Ducked them in 2020 when
Harbaugh
they lost
would
by
have been
100.
fired.
You would have been absolutely run by that Ohio State team. Not even a question.
All right, that's spot 2 right there. Spot 2.
All right, going into spot 3, a word from our presenting sponsor, Team Anders Realty. They'll help you find the home that fits your wants and needs, and they make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients for 30-plus years in the West Michigan area and are here to serve you today. Learn more at teamanders.com. All right, I got a handful of questions. I don't know, Ryan, if you got any in your
have any right now.
any mailbags, but I got a couple. So These are from Chris. Good questions. As a student athlete, if the NCAA offered you immunity, would you throw your coaches or teammates under the bus? Obviously, he's talking about the Michigan situation. Like if you knew it and you wouldn't get punished and you could just kind of freely transfer and you'd be fine to go along your way, would you throw your coaches and teammates under the bus?
I think if I had a little bit of animosity toward my coach or something like that, then absolutely. If it was like a tight-knit group, I don't know if I would. I'd say it would depend on the situation.
Okay, so as a student, part two of that question, as a student athlete, if the FBI or another law authority
if
offered
the FBI got
immunity,
involved, I
would you
sure as
talk?
hell wouldn't. If there was legal things on the line, I sure as hell wouldn't bat an eye at. Would not want to get arrested.
Right. Chris's answer. Chris said his answer for what it's worth. NCAA most likely no. They have no power to do anything to me. The FBI, I'm singing like a songbird. I ain't doing 25 to life for anyone.
Yeah, no.
Similar to you. All right. So another question from Chris. You've been bitching, rightfully so, about how poor this team is shooting from three. Obviously, we're talking about Michigan State basketball. Norman is supposed to be a sharpshooter, but Izzo is planning to redshirt him. Would you scrap that plan and get him out there?
I think there's a reason why he's not playing, whether that be he's a liability in defense, he's too small, I don't know. I think that Izzo's making the right choice for his future, but now you don't know because the guy get into the portal, gets mad, but he looks pretty engaged on the sideline. So
he does, and I think that would be kind of pushing the panic button. I mean, look, Michigan State went from dead last in the NCAA through the first 3 games shooting 3 to now they're, solidly in the 3 to 310 range. I think I haven't looked again today, but they could have shot it better last night. I mean, that's ideal, but there's nothing that says he was not going to be Russell Bird 2.0 either. Is it going to be Matt McQuaid, or is it going to be Russell Bird 2.0, or is it going to be Isaiah Dolman 2.0, right? Like, so I think that's a big risk. But in the follow-up question, I think is a really good one, Chris. And I don't remember if we talked about this on the pod, Ryan, or if you and I have talked about this. Okay, so in football, the NCAA allows players to play 4 games. Levitt is a great example. He played his 4 games, and that's why he hasn't played the last 2. So you can play a third of the season. Now, I get it. In football, it's a little different because you have to play, quote, you have to have 3 years in. You don't have to play 3 years, but you have to be a third-year player to go to the pros. Basketball, it's one and done, right? So I kind of get it, but should the NCAA allow you to play an amount of games and still redshirt?
Yes.
I think it used to be when I was younger. I think it used to be 2 games. I don't think it needs to be a third because they play so many games. Maybe even a fifth,
5-6 games.
I think if you 3 games, I think you should be able to tell in 3 games. Like if you, and it can't be like 3 games sprinkled throughout the season. I think it's 3 of the first, let's just say 10 games. So for a Michigan State, would a Norman play against Duke? Probably not. Would he play against a Butler? Probably not. Would he play against Arizona? No. Would he play against Baylor? Yeah. No. But against an Alcorn State? Sure. Southern Indiana? Sure. Grambling State, I think Michigan State plays after Arizona? Sure. There's 3 games right there in the first 10 games of the season, because you got a couple Big Ten games in there too, to give a feel for, hey, does this guy have it? Is he thinking that he's got it? Because here's the big thing. By the way, Bruce Weber, fantastic commentator on BTN. Love listening to old coaches. And he brought it up again last night with all the COVID rules and everything. Not basketball, but here's an example. Utah's quarterback is coming back for a 7th year next year. You've got 18-year-olds fresh out of high school going up against 22, 23, 24-year-olds. There's a big difference. Yeah, Ryan, that's you put yourself, now you're not in playing shape like you were, but imagine yourself now if you worked out like you did when you were 18 for basketball, how much of a difference there is there. There's a big difference there.
Yeah, they
physical maturity, mental maturity, and everything else. So I think they should have let them play 3. I think it's like a 3 in the first 10 rule. I don't see the harm in it, honestly.
Izzo argued that as well.
I just think it's the right thing to do. It's just and make it a blanket thing. Make no exceptions, right? It's 3. And if you play the 4th one because somebody got hurt and then you're like, oh, shoot, we didn't mean to because we mismanaged it. Sorry, you snooze, you lose. I definitely think that. Mitchapalooza, we're still putting off your top 5 college football teams. We both have to do research on that. Here's another one from Chris. When we heard Coach D was going to be back, we all thought he would help steady the ship and potentially get this team to win a game or two. They shouldn't. Now that the season is almost over, Chris says, what the F did Coach D do besides stand on the sideline and scowl? It looked really old, by the way.
I don't think anything.
I love Coach D. I think what I heard him say, Chris, and I'm sure you've heard the same, is that he did not want to get in the way of the current coaching, that he just would offer advice. Now, I can tell you, I don't know how much advice he was offering, because it was the Nebraska game when Michigan State threw that deep pass and took a risk, and he was very famously, gave a WTF on TV, what did they just do? Now, personally, do I think he should have? Yes. I think Harlan Barnett and I think Alan Haller should have said, Coach D, we're asking you to be here, not just to be a figurehead, but to actually impart your wisdom and guide these guys a little bit. I know you don't want to step on toes. I know you're not on the current staff or whatever, but you were brought in as kind of an interim de facto guy. I think, Chris, they should have had him to be more than stand on the sideline and scout. You notice they don't even show him that much anymore. You might catch him after the game in a handshake line because he doesn't do anything. I think it would have been better served for Michigan State to have him take the headset on defense or the headset on special teams or something. Maybe there's an NCAA rule that precludes that. I really don't know.
Well, Barry Alvarez coached Wisconsin on all those different games.
I just don't think standing on the sideline was enough for these players. He didn't recruit most of these guys anymore, so it's not like they're going to look at him like he's the guy. But look, he's a legacy at Michigan State. I think he probably personally could have done more. That doesn't mean that he's any less in my mind, because I'm sure he had his reason to, but I think he should have. All right, I got 2 more questions for you, Ryan. Number 1. Who should be the next Azinger for NBC?
That's funny. I had that question in the sprint.
All right, we'll wait then. So we'll bag that till the sprint. And the other one, you kind of touched on this a little bit in your open. Is there a better sports week than the feast week?
March Madness. That's all I've got. I mean,
I was thinking about that because you have
mix.
the end of conference tournaments that those weeks, like the little conferences into the big conferences into the first week of the tournament, like that 3 weeks is a great. But that's just basketball. This is like NFL peak playoff time, college football
12.
peak playoff time, all the Maui, the Bad Boy Mowers, Battle for Atlantis. As much as I love March Madness, and that's standalone for its own reasons, I don't think there's a better sports week than this week. I really
this
don't.
is pretty special.
Now, if you're only a basketball fan, then of course it's the March Madness week. But if you love college basketball, college football, and really like the NFL, it's this week. I just don't see a better week on the schedule.
Nope. Agreed. Spot 4.
Spot 4 hoops.
What has happened in the last? I think it was Monday we did it last week because we were talking about Michigan last week. Michigan State, Duke. We'll just talk Michigan State really fast. Didn't look better defensively against Duke. Didn't shoot well. The last 2 games have kind of shored up. Played a little better. I don't know. I mean, I think in the long run they'll be fine, but they have a lot to work on. Getting Kohler back and healthy will be really helpful for them.
They need a post threat. Weber said that too. They asked him what
need
it
a
would take
back
for
to the
Michigan
basket
State.
guy.
I always write notes when I'm watching games. I wrote more notes for the Duke game, but first of all, announcers, refs, etc. treat Michigan State like a middling program rather than the blue blood we are when it comes to playing Duke. It's sickening. It's just gross. These are my notes again from that game. Hogarth and Sissoko suck. Walker is great. Cooper is solid. Carr brings energy. Hall has to be Hauser 2.0 this season. By the way, I don't think he can because he's not nearly the shooter. Akins needs to be more aggressive, but is doing other things like rebound and defend. More fears in Booker, way less AJ and Madi. That was as of the Duke game. For the Butler game, I thought much better versus Butler on both ends. Aggressive first half for Tyson after kind of hearing it that he was more of a second half guy. I thought the start of Cooper was a shot in the arm. I still don't think that we play the freshmen enough in those types of games. That's just my opinion. And then last night, after watching it, Holloman made as many threes, 5, last night as he had made in his career, and looked solid doing it. Is he our best shooter other than Walker?
Remains to be seen, but maybe.
I mean, Akins continues to. He made a couple threes last night and played. Continues to do little things like he gets a lot of rebounds. He's Charlie Bell 2.0. He's like a Gary Harris type of guy. He's got to find that outside shot. He's got to get to the rack. We still can't make free throws. That's a scary thought. AJ's playing a little bit better the last 2 games, but he still has way too many lapses for my liking.
Yeah, focus.
I want to see more fears. I was fine seeing Michigan State play without Walker last night. Hall got dinged up. Surprise, surprise. I just don't think he can be Hauser 2.0. Can he play? Like, he played really well against Butler and Duke. Can he be good that way? Sure. But can he do it every game? I'm not really sure.
No, we've seen that with him.
Cooper makes some mistakes, but I think Cooper is a lot less of a liability than Sissoko. Sissoko was okay last night. Carr, more please. I mean, the dude is just he's just, the dunks aside, which are unbelievable. Like, he hustles. Does he make mistakes? Yes, of course he does. He's a freshman. Does Fears make mistakes? Yes, of course he does. He's a freshman. Does Booker need to fix his motor and whatever? Yes, of course he does. But my question is does Izzo do his freshmen a disservice because he holds them back? Because I watch freshmen for UConn, for Duke, for Kansas, for Kentucky go out there, and they're top 30 recruits too, and own it. So either Michigan State's top 30 recruits are based on their potential and not really what they currently are, and that's why Izzo does it, or Izzo just has them so tightly noosed that he won't let them run. That's why a game like Alcorn State was great, because he could let them go a little bit. Like, in my mind, you got to live with some of the mistakes. Now, I'm not saying that if they make 5, 6, 7 in a row, you keep them on the court, but I also don't think that them looking over their shoulder every 5 seconds, wondering if they're going to get pulled out, is good for them. It's just not good. Like, you want to adjust to today's kids and day and age, then you got to be able to let them go a little bit, and then when they start to hang themselves with the rope, then rein them back in a little bit. Like last night, I thought Izzo in any other game he would have pulled Booker when he missed a couple of those shots. Then I heard in the press conference he was like, "I was happy those shots were all good shots from him. I'm not mad about those shots." Yes, he still needs a little bit more of a motor. Yes, he needs to be better on defense, but he made some decent plays for them. But how can you get better and rely on that if you're not going to play them in key games?
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Yeah, in my book, you've got to live with some of those mistakes.
If you want progress.
Yeah. I think college basketball is going to be a fun season, though, in general.
Yeah, I don't think there's like Kansas, yeah, they're number one. I don't think there's a clear-cut best team this year.
Kentucky's in overtime with St. Joe's.
Yeah, I just saw that. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Big Ten,
UConn, Texas is a good game. 6 point
Purdue
game.
looked good tonight against Gonzaga, but Gonzaga's kind of dinged up. I don't know if they're great, but Purdue's a solid team. They'll lose in the first weekend, but
Wisconsin smoked.
Yeah, they've had their
UVA.
moments. Maryland's look really bad.
Tennessee smoked Syracuse.
Iowa's looks good. Shockingly, that a Fran McCaffrey team that's supposed to be bad is good because they just score at will. Can't play any defense when they score well. Michigan, everyone's singing their praises after they beat St. John's. Turn around and lay an egg. They're up 16 early on Long Beach State. Give up 94 points. Long Beach State today loses by 9 to Illinois State at home. Is Michigan
All transitive
good?
properties, no.
No.
I think college basketball, which is what makes it great, is
There's a lot more parity now
I
with the transfer portal.
I love that there's not a team that's head and shoulders better than everybody else. I would like to be that team, but I like the fact that there's night in and night out, anybody can beat anybody. And this week, really, you kind of get a little bit of that early season flavor. A lot of things change between now and March, as we know with Michigan State historically, but I love that we can see some of these ranked matchups to kind of get a litmus test for where teams are and who kind of comes out of this week really good, and then how does that ride out for the long haul? Because there's plenty of teams that are the Iowas we'll pick on who look like, wow, they could make an Elite Eight or a Final Four in December and January, and then come February, March, they barely make the tournament. So
it's
part of the balance, and it's why you can't panic for Michigan State as much as there's still some things there that worry me, like getting out rebounded by Alcorn State.
That actually wasn't true. I don't think it was even.
Oh, it was. It ended up. Izzo said it was that way. I mean, we gave up 16, as you said, offensive rebounds. That's ridiculous. Now they took up 61 shots and they missed a lot of them, but still, like, those are defensive. Like Izzo said, my coaches would say, they took a lot of shots. There's a lot more rebound opportunities, but as Izzo would say, yeah, those are defensive rebounding opportunities too. So I still have my worries about Michigan State. I don't think that they have a Hauser-like stretch shooter unless somebody develops, and I just don't see that. Hall's shot is too clunky. He's, I think they have a different style of team than last year, which is totally fine. But they need to get to the basket, and when they get to the basket, they need to make their damn free throws. Because they missed 10 last night again, too.
11 for 20.
And that's not a good thing. So getting Kohler back will help them, in the long haul, guard-wise. I think Akins will be fine because he's doing the other things, right? It's not impacting his ability to impact the game on defense or on the glass. Just take it to the rack more often. I'm fine with that. Get your and ones.
Yeah.
Walker, I'm not worried about. He's a gamer. I think Fears, you can see the confidence going up a little bit every game. I thought that was so important for Holloman to get that because it just he's shown that to me already. I've said to you, Ryan, as we've watched it, like he's not hesitating. He's pulling the trigger on whether it's a pull up in the lane or whatever. And I'm not suggesting he should shoot 10 times a game, but like, look, if you're going to be open, you got to be able to knock down the shots and to get on the floor. So
right.
I like that. I do think that Carr, I'll ride some of his mistakes. Just because he's going to make things happen. He is almost a spitting image to Jason Richardson as a freshman. Like unreal dunks that he got and some clutch rebounds because he could sky and some clutch other plays. Jay Rich is a little bit more of a guard probably than Carr. He's small forward too, I guess-ish. But he has an ability to have an impact on games, and I just want to see him play more. And I'd like to see a Booker play because in today's day and age, he may just go, you know what? I thought I wanted to be coached up, but I don't want to be coached up. Then he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to go gangbusters. So you snooze, you lose, Tom. You gotta play these guys.
Right, I agree. I got nothing else college basketball.
All right, NFL quickly. Ryan, you can talk about the Lions because I jinxed Goff and said that he doesn't make bad throws usually.
Did. 3 picks.
He made his 3rd pick, and I went outside to do my yard work and mow the lawn and whatever. They were down 24-13 at the time. No, yes, 24-13, right?
Yeah, 24-13, and then.
And I thought, okay, it's over. I'm going outside while it's still light.
Yeah, I mean, about Lions probably D game. And they still won. -3 in the turnover department.
Yeah.
And you win. I mean,
I know you came out and told me that they won, and I was shocked.
I mean, yeah, the defense struggled a little bit, but to give up 4 turnovers and only allow 26 points is actually pretty solid without much of a pass rush. The offense, when they weren't turning the ball over, moved the ball. The coaching was good. That comeback was just unbelievable.
They need to shore up their red zone offense. Like
they
played
a lot better. I mean, down the stretch, their play calling was Ben Johnson was in his bag. I mean, it was he had Goff looked like he had. It was a completely new game. Like his confidence was, which is a lot to be said for him because he came to Detroit kind of damaged goods. Everyone thought he was just kind of a 1-year rental. Then they draft a quarterback, and he's been really good for the most part for the Lions. So that was good to see.
Helps him to have a guy like Amon-Ra. He's just a stud.
In the run
Laporta's
game,
a stud. The run 1-2 punch on the running game. The line, if they could stay healthy, especially. But the tackles in the center are great. If we could keep the guards healthy.
Yeah.
The thing is, and you said this, Ryan, is the concern is the pass rush, and everybody wants to wet themselves because Hutchinson made the game clinching play or whatever. I'm telling you, I said this last year when they drafted him, and then I ate some crow because he had a really good rookie season. He is overrated. He overruns, he creams himself every damn play. He overruns the quarterback. He loses contain because he wants to do that little stupid spin back, and he's just not landing it. They count him as pressures because he's getting after the quarterback. He's not impacting the plays like he should for a number 2 pick in the draft. Call it sophomore slump, call it people seeing it on film. Well, then find another move, dude. You can't be an elite defensive end and pass rusher with one move. And especially when you blow contain. He's selfish. He plays to get a sack, and he loses contain. And against a running quarterback, so you get fast forward to the playoffs and the Lions play Hurts will torch him. That's why the Ravens torched him, right? There aren't that many running quarterbacks that are out there, but even Geno freaking Smith. That's why he torched him.
Yeah, 'cause he can move.
He's not a great runner, but he torched him because
But
guys
he-
lose contain. And so that's my biggest concern probably. Look, again, like Ryan's had a D game and they still get the win. That's a far cry from the Lions in the past where they would give you a B-plus game and lose. So
Yeah, and find a way to lose. They found a way to win. That's a testament to...
that's a character thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
it is. That's toughness. That's grit. That's what Dan Campbell has in his hat. He was fired up.
We got a 3-game lead now in the loss column because Minnesota blew it late last night against Denver.
Shocking, fraudulent team.
Super Bowl rematch on right now. No Taylor Swift there, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's good.
7-7.
How about this?
Burrow's out for the
Burrow out for
season.
the season. The Ravens are pretty damn good.
Cleveland's decent. They beat the
When they
Steelers.
they just signed to their practice squad Joe Flacco to be their third quarterback.
Pittsburgh is awful.
Yeah, and they're still in the playoffs. Right?
Chargers are awful. They lost to a really
Packers
bad
are
and
bad.
very hurt Green
Packers
Bay
are
team.
bad.
Miami kind of eked one out against Vegas, who's been playing
Giants. Oh, the Commanders. Ron Rivera's next to get axed. He sucks.
better. Oh, awful.
The Giants are literally like patchwork. They have-
Dallas smoked Carolina. Tennessee is awful.
Tennessee's bad.
He's gonna lose his job, right? You think
Vrabel?
Vrabel?
I
mean, they're
don't know.
bad this
They've
year.
been bad the last few years.
They've been drafting quarterbacks left and right, and they haven't found anybody. Houston
Texans
gonna
are
win.
good for them.
San Fran, nice little win.
The Jets
Jets are horrible.
The Jets benched Wilson now for Tim Boyle, and now Simeon's their second string. They're moving him to third string. Zach
And Rodgers is apparently targeted to come back the weekend of the second.
That's not going to happen because they're
That's
not going to be a
crazy.
playoff team. So Rams beat the Seahawks. That's pretty funny. Walker might go on IR.
Yeah, that's a ding for Seattle because even though Charbonnet was a good back, I mean that's a tough loss for them for sure.
Yeah, it's been this NFL season's been really fun. The AFC's a hell of a lot better than the NFC. I'll tell you that. But not gonna
Jeez, this was just a 5-point game.
complain
It was a
about
5-point game.
winning games as a Lions fan. Should be a fun end of the season though, especially with this week being 3 games on Thanksgiving and Sunday, and then who is it? Jets Dolphins on Friday. I mean that's gonna be a blowout, but yeah, it'll be fun. I got nothing else football wise.
Me neither.
All right, sprint at home. To your question before, who replaces Zinger on NBC golf color commentary analyst?
I don't
know what they're
It's
going to do.
hard for me because I don't know who's really like the heir, right?
They don't really
Like,
have one.
You know, Immelman I think settled in nicely for Faldo because Faldo was a tough act to follow. He was really good. Yeah, I mean, do they go with one of their on-course guys like you said, Smiley Kaufman? Do they go with Nota Begay? Do they move Justin Leonard off of like the more like the pregame type of telecast? He's pretty decent. You need a guy that's like Johnny Miller was polarizing, but you need a guy like him because he would tell you what was going on, but he would also call a spade a spade.
Right.
And I think you need a guy that can't be afraid to not just be the master of the obvious. That was the problem with Zinger. I met him once before. He's a nice guy. He captained the Ryder Cup team after the U.S. hadn't won a Ryder Cup in forever. Great success with that. I think it was Valhalla or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But he was the master of the obvious. And, like, I don't need that. I want somebody who's going to enlighten me and who's also going to kind of call guys out for what the heck, why did Spieth do that? Why did JT do that? Why, I need a guy like that. I just don't know who that is right now.
Yeah, I don't either. A name that I saw that was interesting is that Paul McGinnis guy that's on the Golf Channel.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting.
Irish guy.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting.
I think Justin Leonard would be really good.
Yeah, I think Leonard would be good. I just don't know if he's got the
Personality.
kahunas. I don't know if he's got the kahunas to kind of call guys out a little bit. I think you almost like Miller could get away with it because he was not just a contemporary of those guys. He was quite a bit older than them, and so he wasn't playing against them in his prime. Whereas the Zinger still played with some of these guys, and Leonard even still played with some of these guys. So, like, I think you need a guy that's a little older, like Faldo. He called it like it was. That was what made
he
him
was
good.
pretty.
He was entertaining, but he also called it like it
I'm
was.
telling
So
you, we said a while ago, Phil would have been awesome at it.
Yeah, he
if
really
hadn't
would've.
Just been in complete.
I'm gonna have to do my
dumpster fire.
research on that and think about it. I'm out of golf mode right now,
Yeah,
but
me
Chris,
too.
give us your feedback, and we'll mention that in the pod next week.
In honor of the kid Mission State Izone student that made the a 94-foot putt last night at halftime to win $1,290 at halftime. Could you make that full court putt?
I made a half court shot and I met your mother.
Yeah.
That's harder, arguably hard. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's still hard. On hardwood, it's going to go straight.
Well,
unless
I'll
the
tell you
floor's
what the
crooked.
kid did. I watched it. He just lined it up and he absolutely just hit it as hard as he could.
Really?
It
Was it into a regulation hole?
Yeah,
or
just it was like
small,
it wasn't even a hole. It was
like
just
a
like a
cardboard cutout?
thing. Yeah,
Huh.
he just hit it dead straight.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to take any potential weird crooks of the wood out of it.
Yeah, if you hit a little creak of the wood, I think you could do it if you practiced it. I think I could do it. I mean, if you found a line,
I mean, that's a long putt. It's very long odds of it. So
I
it's
feel
making
people
a
make
half-court
those a
shot.
lot though in those.
It seems like it.
Cool for that kid though. All right, who are your Heisman finalists going into the last week of the season?
I would go Nix, no particular order. Nix, Daniels, and Penix.
Yeah, that's mine too. I'd say Daniels, Nick Spence, and then Marvin Harrison. I think.
Oh yeah, he's up
could
there
be
too.
finalist.
I
I think Daniels deserves it the most right now. Then probably
Yeah.
Nick's. But yeah, it should be interesting.
Best player in college football, not the best player on the best team.
He'll probably
It's
put
Daniels.
Corum in there. You know, if Michigan wins,
JJ.
right? Jim Harbaugh's ego. Oh, speaking of him, you know what he said? You know what he said at his press conference today? He's like, yeah, my team's in one piece together, just like how I want to see my mother by the pool in a one piece or something like that. What a freak!
Weirdo.
He's a freak.
Dude has no
Keep
filter.
your hand out of your pants, Jim.
Mel Tugger.
Apparently. All right. In honor of Thanksgiving, what's one Thanksgiving side you won't touch?
Cranberry.
Yeah,
Anything
me too.
cranberry.
Sauce. It looks like
No, I like
blood.
dried cranberries
Nope.
on a good salad, but like that cranberry sauce looks like a mix between cat puke
And blood.
and bloody diarrhea.
Disgusting.
It's gross. Don't put it in a bar. Don't put it cold. Don't put it warm. Don't put it in anything
No way.
or anywhere near what I'm eating. No cranberry. The Pilgrims did not eat cranberries. You can't.
Well, they might
You
have.
can't. No way. No, they did not. There's no way.
No. That's it. That's 149 of these. Hope you all have a great Thanksgiving.
Well, anniversary pod, the sesquicentennial next week.
50. How about that?
Yeah. All right. Meantime, in honor of Thanksgiving, JFK, who was about this time of the year, I believe, that he was assassinated.
It was.
We must find the time to stop and thank the people who make a difference in our lives.